Hey everybody, welcome to Beer and Gear. I'm flying solo. Just wanted to put together something quick to let everybody know we're still here. We haven't stopped the show. We will be back in January with new shows. We just had some issues with getting schedules to line up. So we're looking forward to getting back to it, bringing you new beers and lots of discussion about new gear. If there's anything in particular that you'd love to see us cover, you can always send us an email at beerandgearpodcast@gmail.com. Or if you have a modern podcast app, send us a boost. With a boost, you can always include a message. Thanks, everyone. See you in 2024.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's May 16th, 2010. Time for your Gitmo Nation Media Assassination, episode 200.5.
This is No Agenda.
Welcome to a special backstage tour of the No Agenda show, coming to you from the Hilltop Watchtower Crackpot Command Center in Gitmo Nation West, in the People's Republic of Southern California. In the morning, I'm Adam Curry.
And it's not really a media assassination today. It's a No Agenda assassination. I'm John C. Dvorak.
Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
We still get to say in the morning.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
In the morning never goes away. You know, the thing is, we should tell people, since this is really a show where we're just essentially going to talk about the show, and we're going to answer a lot of questions and probably ask some. But, you know, one of the things you should immediately note, we actually had to debate as to whether we're going to play the opening
yeah, we did.
Jingle.
It's kind of sad that we didn't put the debate on the backstage show. So this is kind of where we, I think on this show, which is driven by support from our producers slash donors, supporters, where we kind of bear it all. Not that we have any secrets, I don't think, but people just want to know a lot of stuff that we don't put into the show because... Little known fact, we make it look easy.
And also, a lot of this personal stuff that they're asking, because I sent out a message on Twitter to get some questions, and we also got a couple of emails, and you worked up some questions yourself. Mm-hmm. To be honest about it, a lot of it is just plain boring.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, indeed. You know, John and I have been in fact, you said this on episode 200, we've been in media, in all forms of media, from print. You've probably been around typesetting. Actually,
I used to be a typesetter part-time when I was in college.
See, doesn't surprise me. All the way through to today's reality-based television programming and everything in between on mainstream media. And I would say, well, I certainly gave up a number of years ago, and I am patently unhireable by mainstream media. In fact, the last...
especially after you did that CNBC thing.
Well, yeah, that's right. When I said Michael Jackson was probably killed, and they cut me off, and of course now it turns out he probably was. But yeah, the last radio station I was on, which was around the time we started this show, actually. In fact...
No, you were doing that show while we were doing this show.
Yeah, but I think we started this show... Yeah, but I'd only done a couple, like a week or two, and then we started doing this show, right? I was doing that first, wasn't I?
No, I think you were fired during...
I was fired during... We were doing No Agenda when I was fired, but I'd only just started that show.
Yeah, no, I think we did it for about a month.
Mm-hmm. So, I was trying to think back, because that was, I think, 26th of either October or November 2007. The first episode was like 35 minutes. The good old days.
Yes.
I was living in London, which did give the show a very different flavor, I have to say. I was also baked out of my mind.
Right. Although, you know, to be honest about it, I don't think that was apparent. And I actually argue with you. I don't think your personality's changed that much since you stopped smoking.
Right. But there's a couple of episodes there where I remember one time I actually went off on some tangent and I said, dude, I'm so baked.
Yeah.
And but yeah,
I do remember that.
But the personality. Well, I'm happy to hear that. I'm just more awake and I can do more and I'm more focused.
Yeah, and you finally got a rig that makes me sound decent.
Yeah, but that's at the end there. We had a pretty good setup. It sounded okay. But this is the best one, I have to say. This is definitely the best one. So, but now we met at I guess. Where did we meet, John? Was I in Cranky Geeks?
Tangents.com on Twitter asked the question. The real Dvorak and Curry have a unique relationship. How did you guys meet? Did you hit it off right away?
I'll tell you something. I found in my crap that arrived from the UK, I found a videotape of the CNET pilots where we actually first met for the very first time. Although
right, and I believe that was in 1993.
3 or 4, maybe.
I think it was 3.
Yeah, and I'm going to get one of those VHS to DVR thingies to transcode all of this stuff. But this was when CNET did not have a website. In fact, I registered CNET.com and said to Halsey Minor, "Hey, dude, I'll do your email if you want. You might want to have a web thing. That I think that would be more appropriate for what you're doing here. But all right, they paid me like $20,000 to do that pilot, which was nice. And you were doing kind of a McLaughlin Group type roundtable as the pilot for that show.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because with CNET, they actually went through a whole bunch of people before they decided they wanted me to do it, and I didn't really want to do it. I actually, to be honest with you, I never wanted to work for CNET. But I did like the idea of watching Kevin Wendell at work. Once they brought him on,
he was the guy from Fox.
Yeah, he's a guy from somewhere. He's a Hollywood guy.
He had set up the Fox network. He was one of the driving programming forces behind Fox.
I don't remember that.
But
whatever the case was, he was a slick operator, and it was fun to watch him work. And but they first wanted Leo Laporte to be the McLaughlin guy, and Leo wanted to do it badly. He's always wanted that sort of gig, and because it's very serious and it's this and that. But they had me do it, but that never got off the ground. It just wasn't going to work, and so then they gave me some other job, being a kind of a clownish co-host. Right. With Gina St. John.
Oh, yeah. Well, they offered me to move out to San Francisco and be there full time. And they offered like really low salary, but 2 million shares of stock, and I declined.
Yeah, well, that was an error.
Well, who knows what, I was like, well,
I know it's a crapshoot. I did the same thing. Yeah, I screwed up.
I said, how many shares outstanding? Well, it was vague, right? I was like, you know what? I got a pretty good thing here at MTV. I'm good.
So anyway, we met in 93 casually.
Very casually.
But, we followed each other's careers a little bit, but then I was kind of triggered by that when you had your moment of richness. And I was floating around Europe, and I ran into a newspaper with one of these papers. I think it was a Dutch story somewhere. And it had a picture of you, and you're some superstar in Holland, and it was unbelievable. So how this guy makes so much money?
Yeah.
And so then you showed up in town again, and so then we just kind of forced myself on.
But wasn't it a yes? And that was nice. But wasn't I on Cranky Geeks when we connected?
No, I think we met up first, and then I put you on Cranky Geeks.
Well, where the hell was it, John? Because
we did an email exchange, and I said let's go have lunch or something. We had our lunch, our initial re-meeting lunch at Fringal. And we talked about, getting a daily news show, the Tech 5 thing, the ideas like that. And then we went and had a big meeting with Ron in the office.
Yeah, Ron Bloom.
You were on Cranky Geeks after that.
I'm trying to look now in my email if I have something from you from that. Must have been 2007, right?
Probably.
So how do you do that in Gmail? Do you do date 2007?
I don't know. Anyway, that's basically the story, and then we I don't know. Then we just kind of naturally got along.
We really don't know. That's the answer. We really don't know how that happened.
We actually get along just in some funny way. It's not really explainable. It's like, you meet somebody and you've known them for a long time, so you know that they're obviously not assassins. So of course, that may not be true. But whatever the case is, you've always had, you had an acquaintance, and then you decide that, now you're working together. It's almost like, where people meet on a Hollywood set and then they're hanging out a lot, and then they're go off their separate ways. But instead of going off our separate ways, since we were both at Mevio, we decided to start doing a show. And that now it's debatable is that, how it got named, when we started.
I think I came up with the name.
I don't know if that's true. I think you're the one that approved the name.
Are you going to tell me it was your brain fart?
I think it was. I saying, well, we got we got No Agenda, and then you said, let's call it No Agenda.
Yeah, that sounds about right, actually.
And
that sounds good.
Something like that. Yeah. And then as it evolved, we got into other things which were kind of the same kind of like we don't know who came up with the idea. I mean, the donation thing.
Well, before we get to that, because the show started off with a very different format. It was, in fact, I think our first show was on a Friday, and like a Friday afternoon, Friday morning for you, and we would just talk about stuff. And I would grab the Financial Times, but we would also just talk about stuff. The difference between America and Europe.
Right.
And it was just like a casual
conversation.
Yeah, just like a conversation.
And this was, in my opinion, I've always felt that two guys, an interesting conversation between two people is interesting to everybody. And I've always believed I could sell conversations I had with my wife, and I always felt that a good conversational show where there's not a lot of rehearsal or preparation, but just guys who just talking about stuff that they know a lot about. And coincidentally, because the two of us are so extremely well traveled, I mean, pretty much been everywhere, and observant because we're generally floating around looking at stuff. It turns out that we have enough life experience to have an interesting conversation, and we're both from slightly different backgrounds, so we could complement each other in ways that I thought was interesting for people to listen in on.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I was looking to do a show with total honesty, not in the regard of, let's all hold hands and tell each other a secret, but more like, why don't we just say what it is and not be fake and just talk about stuff, and we can contradict and we can have an argument, and we don't have to. In fact, we had no thoughts even, I think, about making money doing
no agenda.
Yeah, we had absolutely no agenda. And I was just happy that someone would listen to my bullshit. Like, hey, here's a guy who actually knows more than me because he's been around longer for sure. And we'll listen to some of the, because I think I was maybe a late bloomer. I was like saying, oh, wait a minute, the world kind of works a little bit differently, because I was so embedded in the hits. That's all I did. I played hits on radio, on television, like. I knew what all the celebrities were doing, and all of a sudden, like, hey, there's something else going on here.
I think I corrupted you more than you corrupted me when it comes to this show.
Correct. I would agree.
Mainly because of my natural cynicism. I took a test one. It was a computer software program some years ago. I've always found it fascinating. That was a career guidance. It was almost like it was a very elaborate computer test. You'd answer 1 million questions. It was like an MMPI or Minnesota multi-phase personality inventory that people take in some companies. It's actually an illegal test. You shouldn't be forced to take it. But it can tell whether you're a psycho and all these other things. And this was to determine what your career path should be. And I took the test a couple of times, and it was the weirdest thing to get back at the top of a career path. This is telling you this is what you should go be doing.
Right.
Critic.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really good. I like that.
So anyway, we got that thing. When we started, there's a couple,
I got like hand worker on all my tests. Like, you should be shoveling shit, boy. You shouldn't be in any kind of business.
You might be surprised. The test was pretty amazing. I had other people take it. It was just like nailing people left and right. I wish if I could find it in my archives.
I'll take it. If you can find it, I'll take it.
If they could reproduce it in a modern format, it would be nice. So anyway, we started the show just casually, and it had it really started picking up a following quickly, and people were feeding back into the mechanism, encouraging the continuation of the show. And then somewhere along the line, this was your idea, I'm sure of it, because it couldn't have been mine. You decided to do 2 shows a week.
Yeah. I don't remember why.
There was some reason, because I think the show was starting to get long.
It was getting long, yeah. And we said, well, why don't we do 2 shows? Well, actually, that's when we made a real commitment, though. And no, that was much later in the game. We made a real commitment to do 2 shows after we said, hey, this is real. We're building an audience. But I think we were going for a good year there just on one show.
We probably went a year building an audience, and we had a kind of a weird audience because there were really your fans separate from my fans, and my fans would say, you should do the show by yourself. You should get rid of Curry. And
give that motherfucker 2 to the head, man.
I can't believe that you would be getting the same kind of commentary. And it's always made me laugh because it's like, oh, yeah, that's what you want. Just some guy talking for solid.
By the way, I have never...
No conversation, no pace and flow.
I've never received an email of someone saying get rid of Dvorak, ever.
I have seen the get rid of Dvorak meme on Twitter, and I've seen it here and there.
I've never seen it. I'm not kidding. I've never seen it.
Nice then. Well, then your fans are less
hostile.
crazy.
Yeah.
Hostile. Okay, so
at a certain point, though, I think that what really drew us together is we're both radio guys at heart. I think we're and I know I am, and I grew up in radio. Television was more like a sidetrack for me. I never felt I'm too tall, I'm too lanky, I'm too geeky, I have Tourette's. There's a whole bunch of stuff that would make me not ideal for television. My head isn't big enough to be really successful.
I know about that.
Yeah, you got to have a huge, not metaphorically speaking, but physically a huge head that makes you successful on TV. We've already established that. But it was our I think our mutual love of radio and the art.
I love radio, and the reason. There's a lot of reasons I think it should be explored. One is that fact that you don't have to. It's different. I mean, radio is, and this is basically what we're doing is radio, and it's a modern form of radio podcasting. You don't have to get dressed. You don't have to primp.
There's more than that. It's theater of the mind is what I like about it.
Right, and you can also well, the theater of the mind part, which is extremely valuable. I don't know. I mean, my first broadcasting training was in I went to Foothill College for a while and I was on the radio station, and I just loved it. I produced a radio play, and I did a lot of radio. I got a 3rd-class license, which you had to have at one time.
Oh yeah, FCC license. I still have mine.
Nobody needs them anymore, and I've always liked. And I'm very kind of a sound nut. I like good quality sound, which is why I was always carping on the quality of this podcast. Even when I was doing Silicon Spin at Tech TV,
sound is always forgotten on television. No one gives a crap.
And so, but I made a big stink about it because it sounded so bad. And 2 of the sound engineers that were working there I was their hero.
Yeah, I know, hero of the sound engineers.
Because the sound engineers couldn't get anybody to listen to the fact that they were using cheap mics and they weren't doing notching or anything.
Right.
And so it sounded like a cheap ass production. Now the thing that's interesting is that MIT during the Negroponte era, when they had the Media Lab, they had studied this to death, and they had done double-blind studies over and over again, and it kept coming up. If you take a group of people and have them watch a TV show with shitty sound, and then have them compare and then show another TV show with really great sound, like Dolby 5 channel.
They watch longer.
No, it's not just that. When they do an analysis, they claim the picture's better.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it makes sense. And I'm a sound nut, although I've had a lot of trouble, just because of the technology we've been using. But now, so now it's where it should be. I am way into creating a custom sound that gives you something that affects the listener in other ways.
By the way, you have the record button pushed?
Oh, yes, I do. So, we have compression. I put noise gates on because I don't want to hear when either I'm talking or there's. By the way, I love silence. When neither of us say anything, the noise gates kick in. It's completely silent. If I didn't have those on, then I'd hear your room. I'd hear stuff, rustling of papers, and that's to me an important part of our sound. And I love it because in the beginning. Certainly when we had a huge Skype delay, people would be like, oh, I keep grabbing my my iPod or my MP3 player because I think that the thing is stopped or it's crapped out. But then you guys talk again, and it gets people's attention. Silence is beautiful.
Yeah, it does work. And we have a moment of silence every so often. But anyway, so the two of us are kind of we have amenable personalities. So we're complementary. We're not, people say, "Oh, do you work because you're the opposites?" No, we're hardly the opposite.
Not at all.
We're just complementary. We have different kind of needs, issues, perspectives, but they're not opposite. They're just different. And so it worked out. So we have a show that works. Very rare to do, these kind of partnerships. Somebody else asked a question. Let me go to this one. Who's the star of the show? And of course, would be me.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
right on.
I thought I'd get that in before you gave the same line.
I was wondering if we could actually say it at the same time. Like, nah, it'll never work on Skype. We'll never hit that at the same moment.
No, but that would have been funny on stage.
So, in a Smothers Brothers kind of humor way.
There's no star of the show because... And there's no, sidekick. I mean, it's not like there's a dominant character. I mean,
right.
Adam produces the show, so he picks up the dominant side of the production because he's the one who hits the buttons that says in the morning, and he's the one who opens the show because he's got all that gear. But it just happens to be what you have to do if you're producing. Because if I was producing, you'd
be starting the clips on my cue.
I'd be starting the thing myself. But and somebody has to produce. You can't have two producers.
No, that would suck.
But
what happened, and a lot of people talk about this. At least I've seen it around. Like, well, it used to be. In fact, we used to say the show that has we would open the show that has no jingles, no sound effects, no agenda. And then I think because people need to know that John is the kind of guy, and this is I really appreciate this, by the way, who will see something on television or find a crazy documentary or something that you're generally interested in, and it's often, I think, it's stuff that you don't even believe in or care about yourself, but he'll burn you a DVD and make a nice label on it, and I'm always amazed by the labels. It's always nice art, and it's labeled beautifully.
That way, if the feds bust in, they look at it, they say, "Oh, this isn't a bootleg. This got to be the real
It's got to be the real deal." But that's not like movies. It's it's documentaries. It's different shows that he's seen. And you handed me a copy of The Family Guy with the episode Weenie and the Butt. And that really got because, again, we're both radio freaks, and we figured this would just be funny to do, and it kind of stuck. And I think that it would be fun. That's also where In the Morning came from, by the way. And it's such a takeoff on the Morning Zoo format, and which we both, I would say, love and hate at the same time. Loathe, of course, now. It's just so old-fashioned. But when you listen to this, you can understand why radio guys get off on Weenie and the Butt. It's about 2 minutes, this. Oh, that's the Hulu pre-roll. Watch your favorites anytime for free. Hulu.
Hey, everybody, it's Weenie and the Butt here live at the Quahog Air Show. We're all ready for the Weenie Sound-Alike contest.
I don't know, Butt. I don't think they can say my catchphrase because they no funny.
Oh, there it is. And if you think you can say that just like Weenie here, you could win $97.1 for the cool weekend ahead. Weenie and the Butt. Weenie and the Butt.
Cool weekends in the morning, 97.1 FM.
Cool weekends in the morning with Weenie and the Butt.
WQHT 97.1.
97.1. Weenie and the Butt.
In the morning, cool weekends.
FM.
Weenie and the Butt. And welcome back.
Excuse me, I gotta find a lost kid. Can I use your mic?
That's what she said.
Whoa, you got butt slam.
Ho, 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 ho.
Listen, I could really use a hand here.
That's what he said.
Butt slam.
That's Manic Monkey on 97.1.
Manic Monkey, 97.1.
Cool weekends in the morning. Oh, weekend long.
Weenie and the Butt.
In the morning.
On the radio.
Give me that. Stewie Griffin, will you please report to the radio booth? Stewie Griffin.
Hey, that's quite a voice you've got there. You ever think about doing radio?
Well, I listen to a lot of radio. Peter and Lois leave the radio on when they go out, so I feel like somebody's home.
Well, here's my card. Call me if you're interested.
Hey, okay, we've got our first contestant.
Let's hear Weenie's catchphrase.
They no funny.
I think we have a wiener. And that's Dickie the Punchline Donkey on 97.1.
Dickie the Punchline Donkey on Cool 97.1.
Cool weekend.
On the radio.
In the morning.
FM.
WQHG.
Cool weekend.
In the morning.
On 97.
97.1.
It's one of the greatest moments in Family Guy history.
It really is. And you know they produced all of that stuff, and they must have had a ball, because it really was like that in the 90s, in the 80s and the 90s. Radio was absolutely in the morning on the radio.
No content.
97.1. Zero content. All filler. And I used to hate it. We'd have to do liner cards. Here, read this, hit the jingle. All right, $100.1 in cash for you on Z100. Z100 serving the universe.
So we kind of decided, we didn't decide, it just happened. Most of the show, by the way, for people who are asked all these questions, it's really an evolution.
Yeah. There's no meeting.
We don't have meetings.
No
we don't
meetings.
really talk about
No. We in fact, that's if there's a rule, we generally agree not to talk about what we're going to talk about, because we know that what will happen is we'll start talking about it, and then we bring it up on the show, and then it'll always suck. There's like,
it's like it's been rehearsed.
Yeah, there's no tension there.
Right, and so anyway, so this evolved. But what happened? Then of course you ran into Jeff Smith
in the morning.
And so we ended up getting a bunch of these jingles and things, which some people complain about. But the fact of the matter is, it paces the show well. It is a mockery of the other model, but it adds kind of a nice. I don't know what it is. The atmosphere is improved by it. The in the morning thing is used as a rim shot, generally, or it should be, and it is often. So I say something funny, which is very common on the show, and then he hits the rim shot.
Or if you go off on a tangent.
So we have a bunch of these things which we use, and now we got a couple of questions.
By the way, that's an old radio trick for a segue. It's really, it helps transition the listener's brain from one segment to the next. It jars you for a moment there.
And if you listen to our last show, show 200, Adam was going off the deep end on some topic. He kept talking. It was way at least 2-3 minutes overdue to stop it. And I told him to play the Adam Curry's Pet Peeve of the Day jingle, which I knew would transition. It would stop him in his tracks.
Adam C. Curry's Pet Peeve of the Day.
That's right. It also stops me. You're right. Yeah, it works perfectly that way.
So the show, here's from one of our listeners. The show you do today is very different from the show when you first started, e.g. personal anecdotes are gone. No, they're not. Audio clips and jingles are now prevalent. Originally less than an hour a week, it is now 4 hours a week, and listeners are now asked to contribute cash. Is the show where you want it to be, or you're planning more changes? The show just evolves, so we don't plan anything, although we do things individually that may or may not stick.
In fact, if anything, we're always trying. It's more like when I find something, and by the way, we'll get into this, but a lot of people send me stuff. That's how I get a lot of good information, and either that's good or I'll find something else that is good that relates to it. I'm thinking, man, I'm going to blow John away with this. He's going to love this when I play this. I can just hear what he's going to say. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, there's that, and there's the other time. Curiously, though, we both tend to be on the same stories, which is kind of interesting. But we had a show, I can't remember, it was about 6 or 7 shows ago, where you had actually collected the clips that were all complimentary to my discussion. And it was like, because I didn't get some of these clips that I wanted, you had them. And I actually thought that was the most unbelievable show we've ever done, because it looked rigged.
Yeah, it really flowed very nicely, and that happens from time to time. But yeah, I'm on board with the evolution. There's nothing absolutely nothing is planned. I have my own things. John has his things. Sometimes we might send each other a link from time to time, and even then, usually the link doesn't get discussed because we saw, well, whatever, it's over. But we have a couple of common interests of things that are funny, that we think are funny. Usually they have to do with mainstream media. I think that's the most fun, is when we rag on mainstream media and pull it apart and simultaneously open people's eyes as to what's really going on on television.
that may have been triggered by the Weenie in the Bud episode of the Family Guy, because once we started mocking that model, and we started looking at the media bitching about it generally on a higher plane, I believe, than the people at Fox have ever thought of, and we realized that it was actually we were entertaining ourselves, and we knew it was very valuable information, and we had the time. It's not like anyone can't do this, but most people work for a living. If you're to have a job at Goldman Sachs and you're there till 7 at night, and you have to get in early, whatever, and then you have to drink all day, which seems to be what the job's about,
and watch strippers.
You don't watch strippers. You don't have time to go and start digging around these stories to find the one, the missing element or the kind of the crazy connection. You just haven't got time to do it. And then, the fact that the mainstream media doesn't do it, and they don't, is just makes you wonder.
So I will say that there were two seminal moments when we had our equivalent of a meeting. And the one is when we spoke on the phone and said, you know what, this thing is real. This is really catching on. Let's do 2 shows a week. That I do remember. And that was like, whoa, something's happening here. This is really special. We should just do it. And then I even recall you saying, okay, I've got to switch this around. I've got Cranky Geeks on Wednesday. I mean, this is when we started to really integrate this show into our daily schedule, into our lives, because actual work does go into it. I don't know about you, but every single day, here's my system. I have labels set up in my email, like Gmail labels, and whenever I come across something that I think is interesting, or that someone sends me, or that I find, I'll email it and tag it with that label. So I have a label now for show 201. And then the night before the show, that is if I haven't found anything that showed up that I really needed to dig into, which of course can take hours of extra work and investigation. Then I sit down and I start to assemble everything into a huge outline of stuff, and then I have to read everything. Look at all the YouTube clips, and in the meantime, whenever I can, without destroying my relationship, I'm watching C-SPAN 1, 2, and 3. I'll skim by HLN, CNN, CNBC, MSNBC just to see what they're doing, see if I find anything funny. I find myself watching less of Fox these days. It's just too annoying for me. But C-SPAN I find to be I love it so much. To me, it is actual entertainment. And of course, C-SPAN has done a great job with their video library, because all you have to do is remember a line that someone said, which is typically what I'm looking for. You go to the archive, you type it in, search transcripts. It'll search the transcripts and come up with that actual piece of video and cue the video to the spot where the line is. I mean, it's amazing what they've done there.
It's a very valuable resource. And, the thing is, on the weekend, they have this, what I really like. I mean, I like the regular C-SPAN, but on the weekend, they have this book TV.
Yeah.
They bring these various writers in, and many of them have written crazy books one way or the other, right wing, left wing, everything. And they sit them down with a guy who really is a good conversationalist, or sometimes somebody that's in their same field of study. And they talk to him for an hour or more. Usually an hour, and it's like a whole hour, and it's basically it's like books on tape. I mean, you get pretty much the perspective you're looking for. You find everything out from this person. It's just amazing. It's much better than any talk show, Charlie Rose, or any of these commercial things.
Yeah, and what's nice about that is I kind of know what you're watching. So I know that I don't have to. And I must say, from time to time, it happens every other week probably. You'll send me. Sometimes I send you an SMS, a text message saying, dude, C-SPAN 3 now, right? And then we'll both sit down and watch something at the same time. This has happened to me that I've been in the car, and I get like C-SPAN 2 now. I'm like, oh, crap, but I luckily have the C-SPAN iPhone app, and I'll listen to the audio. It's sickening. We're like the guys from the Muppets.
It's a little crazy.
Yeah, it is.
But it's not as though, and the funny thing is, I don't think when we first began the show that we're going to get so heavily embedded into current events to this extreme. And like somebody says, your show was about you guys going out to dinner, and, it was a lot of moments, and we'll still discuss wine and food occasionally when it comes up. But we don't, instead of sitting around talking about our meal, that people can live vicariously through our, steaks and Cabernet. That pretty much kind of just went by the wayside because it wasn't. I don't know if it was.
The audience also drove that, and the only way to measure that is by feedback that you get and the growth of the audience. And it was pretty clear what people were interested in, and they were interested on our take of current events. We're interested in our unveiling, if you will, and this is purely because of our experience, our unveiling of the bullshit and I would say the deception of mainstream media. And I think it's helped a lot of people see things in a different light, and that's what the audience wants. And, John, you and I are both in the audience business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and in fact, it is. You can tell by the way people send you notes. I mean, yeah, every once in a while, somebody that was there from the original show, and they kind of like the fact that we have a wine tip once in a while, which I can still do, or there's some observation we made about the trends in food. That's fine, which is now different than me complaining on the earlier show, the show 200, about the raw milk issues. That's a kind of a foodie thing. But the point is that the people that really got jacked up and the ones that are pretty much financing the show because they send in big contributions and say, wow, we like the way you deconstruct these stories, the way you tear them apart, the way you show us, me, as it were, the way you show me that I'm being led astray. People, it's very valuable for people to have some sense of understanding of what they're being bombarded with.
So when did we start asking for donations?
That began sometime in 2009. I believe we semi-seriously may have done something in late 2008. And the only reason I can say this because I can look at the PayPal account since we did it as a PayPal thing. And we did it at the beginning, I think, with trepidation. Not complete trepidation, but I think you may have had a little more than I did because I've always felt there was a model of direct support. And I was thinking about this. I have to keep thinking of different arguments because, the ones that do it the best are public broadcasting. And
you're right. That's what it was. We were talking about that, and then we were talking about PBS. And I said, why do those dickheads who are clearly shills, not all and all the time, but why do they get away with this, and why do people support that? It appears that we have a large number of people who like us the same way they either currently do or used to like public broadcasting.
Right, and public broadcasting also has the issue with the fact that they have commercials, and we really played up a couple of clips that we developed, we found about them admitting that they're underwriters.
Let's play that one because we can't play that enough. This was the president of PBS.
NPR.
Was it NPR?
Yes, NPR.
Being asked about
underwriters.
About their underwriters and how the state of affairs, and here was her answer.
Okay, moving on to money. How are NPR's corporate underwriting revenues holding up in the recession? And what about foundation grants?
Two different stories. Underwriting is down. It's down for everybody. I mean, this is the area that is most down for us. Is in sponsorship, underwriting, advertising. Call it whatever you want.
Right, call it whatever you want, and then I think we started to open people's eyes. Yeah, this is kind of the way it went. We started to open people's eyes about how it really worked, and people were like, wow, Monsanto sponsors this, Archer Daniel Midland sponsors that, and we're like, well, okay, so how about the objective reporting about those companies? Well, there doesn't seem to be a hell of a lot of it, and I think a lot of people, this is maybe how it really started, John, and I'm just vague on it, but is people started to send us like $100 and say, well, this is what I would have normally spent on PBS, the national treasure. I want to spend it on you. And I think that's where we said, oh, wait a minute, there's something here.
Well, we definitely had, again, this is the problem with answering questions like this. We don't.
We're brain dead.
We're idiots. No, it's an evolutionary show, and like with anything in evolution, just a model. it's very difficult to put your finger on a spot. I mean, we can do the weenie and the butt spot, and that had some influence, and we can point right to it. But the rest of it is always vague because it just kind of evolved. We were actually very, being an open source show, which is another idea that we decided to go with. In other words, we don't care if you steal the show.
Wait, I actually do remember I was in New York with Mickey, and it was winter. It must have been winter 2009. And I remember I called you and I said, hey, this model that we've been kind of, well, not really working on, but that has evolved, it seems to be working. We should really go for this. We should really try. And I think at that point I said, boy, I would love to do this full time. I would love to do nothing else but this. I enjoy it so much.
Well, the model, as I remember, I was always for it from the get-go because I've always admired the model itself. I always admired the fact that you can you give people what, essentially if you're doing it's like the Max Headroom thing where they had the direct numbers. The show was going downhill, the numbers would go down, and you could see it in real time. You can see if we're doing the right thing, if we're doing a good job. Directly. It's not.
It's value for value.
You can't go off the deep end, and we can't turn the show into like an analysis of 60s music, and that's all we talk about for 2 hours, and expect to get any money from anyone. So we're only doing it. Now, at the same time, we obviously don't want to be pushed around by the audience. We have to lead them as opposed to just doing whatever they want. So you have to have some leadership. This is like a company that, you don't focus group everything. Focus grouping it shows you what they used to like. But if you want to move the show in new directions or try different things, you actually have to experiment with it. But you will get that feedback. You're going to get a pushback saying, no, this sucks. Don't do that again. And, and then the donations go way down. So it's an interesting tightrope walk, but it's direct support from the listeners. And people have come up with all kinds of different complaints about it. Well, why do I have to spend $100 because I can go see a movie for $50 and they put a lot of money into making those movies, and you guys don't put any money into making this show, and there's this kind of weird kind of complaints about production costs I've been getting every once in a while, and I never had a real good retort for it, except, well, it's different. It's like you're paying for books on tape. It's like a book. We're really competing with books on tape. We're not competing with Avatar. And then I started thinking about
we're also competing with radio, but radio you get 22 minutes an hour of action. Well, less.
Radio is terrible.
17 minutes of programming and 13 minutes of commercials. Make your choice.
Right, and how much is your time worth? So I've used that argument, but then I also found another one, which I really haven't exploited on the show. But, because people do this production, well, it costs a lot of money to make a movie. What about a novel? Novels are one of the first businesses that are directly user-supported.
Good point.
You buy a book.
Good point.
And you read the book, and you've already paid your money. Of course, unlike our show, the book you pay in advance for the book. And you pay in advance for the Avatar movie. You pay in advance for a lot of these things. We don't do that. We're more of the church model where if you don't like the sermon, you don't have to put anything in the coffers. But it's the same thing. Your books are user supported. And there's no ads in a book.
No. And once you get over the personal hurdle coming from mainstream, where, by the way, we hate commercials. I've always hated commercials.
That's where the DVR is such a godsend.
No, but I mean, just even as a creator of content, I'm like, I gotta hit the commercial break. I gotta wait for the commercials.
Oh yeah, no, they're terrible. You gotta interrupt your flow. Watch one of these shows. Anyone listening to this on Fox or any place else, and they get somebody in a really heated debate, but they're on a hard break.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen this with Tom Brokaw and the president. And and they got some guy screaming in his ear, counting down the commercial, and the president's actually just saying something really interesting. It's like, it's annoying. It's very, very annoying as a creator to go through that. But then it was kind of weird. At least for me, it was. You feel embarrassed to ask people for money, and there is a psychological hurdle. But once you're over that.
You got over it pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's easy sailing. It's like, hey,
I had some pushback from the family It's like, and I won't say who, but they know who they are.
Yeah,
how can you bring yourself to begging for money for this? How can you do that? It's beneath you. Can't you get some advertisers? I don't want any advertisers if I can get money directly from the listeners. I mean, why would I want that?
Yeah, it screws up the product.
It just ruins the product. I mean, there's nobody, and the thing is, most of the people have not. We've taken it. One of the reasons we do this show and we do this, the money, asking for money and support donations, is because, whatever you want to call it, is because it gets us closer to the audience. It's actually a good close connection. You know what you're getting for your money. At some point, it becomes a. It just makes you feel more honest.
And there's another thing we did, which I know was my initiative. And I think it helped us in a number of ways, is we decided to stream it live when we do the show. And that did a number of things. One, it gave, at least me, I appreciate the instant feedback loop of the chat room. Now, I can't watch it all the time, but sometimes a punchline will come through, and they're always on a 25-second delay, so it's interesting how that works. But a punchline will come through, or someone might drop a link in there. But I personally... Even if I didn't have the chat room, just knowing that people are listening live at that moment gives me an energy that I've always loved doing things live. I'm not a big fan of recording. If I have to record something, it's got to be live to tape, like I do Daily Source Code, like you do Cranky Geeks, although that's streamed live as well now. I just want it live, because then you can leave all the warts in there and all the crazy shit, and that actually makes it more interesting when it's not highly produced. And it also forces us to I think before we were doing it live, it's like, hey, what time should we do the show? Well, I got this, I got that. Now it's like, my schedule is Thursday morning. I get up at the same 6:30. I get up. And from then on out, it's no agenda. Sunday morning, 6:30, I get up. From then on out, it's no agenda.
Yeah, I know I have the same thing. Except occasionally we've had to move the show to the Wednesday night.
We haven't had that in a long time.
No, but we're going to have it next month because I have a travel thing that's interrupting both shows.
Which brings me to...
Oh, wait, let me finish one more thing about the donations. One of the things that when we went into the donation thing, we started asking for money, direct support from the listeners. This has never really been. I've been figuring this out because it's a form of marketing that interests me. But one of the things that people say, well, you can't, man. I'm sure you're starving to death and you can't do it. Why don't you get an advertiser? They always say. No one except us. And I believe me, I haven't seen anything close. And there may be some religious programming that I'm not aware of. But nobody doing podcasting, professional level, good quality podcasting, as we're doing, has taken it serious.
Yeah.
We are seriously, we have programs. We came up with the night thing. We've got different kinds of the.
We also don't call it a tip jar. We don't work for tips.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, no, we do this. We're seriously doing this, and it's like take it or leave it. This is the model we're working with. It's going to be a lot better. The product you're going to get's a lot better. If you get anything out of it, you get something out of it, contribute. I mean, just the way this is new.
Do you feel the show serves as more than just a source of entertainment? If yes, what do you hope to accomplish? Well, first of all, let me say, from my perspective, I absolutely see this as a form of entertainment. I hope everyone is entertained by our show.
They have to be.
If you're not entertained, we have blown it. There has to be a moment where, and entertainment comes in different ways. It can be funny, it can be dramatic, it can be sad, it can be frightening, whatever emotion button we're hitting. It has to be entertainment. Otherwise, why listen? Then it would just be boring.
I remember somebody sent us a link. So, well, there's a couple people that do a show like yours, and they sent us a link to somebody's show that was very much like ours. They deconstructed the news a bit. They tended to not to have our perspectives, but they did a fairly decent job. And it was so dull. They had it was just like this academic, you can't get, it's just the modern audience is the modern audience. And no matter how intellectual you might think you are, you will be better served by someone who feeds you information in a way that keeps your attention. And to keep your attention, you have to have an element of entertainment. Our personalities, generally speaking, I think, are the entertainment.
Well, also, and I've only had this one.
my humor, of course.
Yes, obviously. I've only had this one other time in my career. Sometimes you just find these magical combinations, and it's not by design. You can't train for it. You can't go to school for it. It just happens, and you have these combos that just work. And this is one of those that just work. In fact, my biggest fear now, and I know what yours is, John, but my biggest fear is you're going to roll over and die one day, and the show will be over. And I know you're
10 years at least,
and you're afraid that I'm going to go crazy and leave Mickey and go off the deep end. I mean, I know what you're fearing.
That's my thinking. Yeah, I think that can happen any minute. Our pledge asks on Twitter, Mr. Dvorak, your campaign seems to have the momentum of a runaway freight train.
Hey, there's the meme.
Why are you so popular? I think we answered that question just now. Also, the No Agenda chat folks wanted the moderators should be invited. They've donated a lot of their time. Well, they're invited to listen to the show when we're done with it. Next time, maybe we can do something more for them.
This show is the first one in a long time that we're not streaming live, but also this is a different type of show. We're just kind of... So let's answer the second part of that question, though. What do you hope to accomplish? What do you hope to accomplish, John, with this show?
I think and this is going to be... This is not going to sound good. Because it makes you sound... There's a kind of a... Well, you'll see.
Let them eat cake.
No. I think that I honestly believe that we're doing a serious public service to bring people, generally people that are listening to the show. I've always believed this even when I'm a writer. People always say, well, when I'm writing, like in PC Magazine, when I was writing all those years in Inside Track, I always had a vision of what was I trying to accomplish, and what I was trying to accomplish, because I knew it would get me more readers. It's a selfish reason, by the way. I knew it would get me more readers. My concept was if somebody read my column and they're working in a cubicle, and my column was designed to give them an edge over the guy in the other cubicle who wasn't reading my column. And I've always believed that this is the value proposition, a phrase I hate. But it was one of the things it's always in the back of my mind. I'm trying to give people some edge over the people who aren't paying attention to me.
Oh, no. This is basically, we want you, the audience, to be able to get laid because you sound smarter listening to us.
Exactly.
I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that it?
Or a job, or a promotion.
Or anything. It can enrich your life because you had that one little bit of information that someone went, oh, well, that guy said something interesting. Or, oh, she has an interesting take on stuff. And for me, it's that. Maybe it's just that. Now, this is...
for you.
No, I'll tell you what it is. I think I was born to do this. I think everyone is born to do something. And it took me a long time with a lot of detours, and I've been counting down the hits, and I've pretended to run companies with varying degrees of success, but basically riding off of fame and fortune, which in itself is interesting to have a perspective from that angle. But I love this. I so love it. And, people say, man, you work really hard. You do a lot. We have house guests, and they'll be like, my God, Adam's always on that thing, and he's editing, and he's recording stuff. Yeah, I love it. And it doesn't even feel like work. I love this. I love what we do. I love what I do. And that's also completely selfish, but if it gets you laid, hey.
No, the good works generally are selfish at some level, because if you think you're helping somebody, sometimes that's selfish because you get a good feeling from it, and that's a selfish thing. Although it wouldn't be defined as such by anybody in their right mind.
So let's talk about the open source model for just a second.
Before we do that, since you brought it up, I want to bring in Simon Smith's question from Twitter, which says, will you offer relationship advice on No Agenda? My wife doesn't react well to the hookers and blow angle.
Really? She should try it. What does that mean?
I don't know. Some people just...
we do get... I hear a certain thing... two things I hear. One is people don't like the hookers and blow because it puts some people off. Okay. That's just who we are, I guess. And we find it amusing. I don't think, John... I've never done blow, and I certainly have never done the combination of hookers and blow at the same time. So
you admit to doing hookers?
Yeah, absolutely. You've never done hookers. Hello?
I don't discuss these things in public.
Hello, is this on?
By the way, the hooker situation is a cycle. And the 30s, the 70s, lots of hookers, and so we're going into a new cycle of hookers. Probably starting around 2012.
Let me put it this way: I am not against hookers. I think that there's a lot of bad stuff that happens in the sex industry, but if there's a lot of women who support their children and themselves, and if that's what they want to do, and it can be done in a safe manner, power to you. I grew up in Amsterdam. I saw it working quite well. Thank you. What's the problem is when it gets driven underground. But anyway, that's a whole separate show.
So now what was your
the second one? People say, well, I try to help people listen to this show, but then they hear the opening and the whole in the morning thing, and they think it's some BS top 40 weenie in the butt show, and then they don't listen. And I
don't know what we can do about that.
Nothing, but I actually like it because you have to. Once you get over that hump, then you can get kind of sucked in. So that's also a mask. That's probably important. Can you imagine like some meeting going on at the NSA or the CIA, and they're like, "Yeah, we've got to get rid of these guys. I hear bad things about that Curry and Dvorak. Let's listen to the show." And they hear this whole in the morning bit, and like, that can't be anything.
It definitely puts people off.
Or maybe Echelon. Echelon is sniffing our show, and they're like, "Oh, this can't be interesting."
Just what you said. The guy goes into a meeting, says, "These guys they're subversive. These two guys," and the guy says, "Really? Well, let me hear the show." And then they start playing it with that opening.
Crackpot and Buzzkill
in the morning.
The guy says, Get the hell out of my office, you crackpot! Get out of here.
So it's by the way, that is now that you mention it, I purposely love, and I don't know who came up with the moniker, but I love being called the crackpot because it is the ultimate shield, the ultimate. Because some of the stuff we say, and I think we get pretty close to the truth on a lot of issues. I would rather people say, he's just a conspiracy theorist, he's just a crackpot, because that will save me from getting killed. We've talked about that.
And I think it's a good theory, and it's a likable theory. But the guy, we have to track down the guy who coined crackpot and buzzkill. It was an email I got. We mentioned on the next show. We mentioned it, and you thought it was great to be called the crackpot.
Yeah, I love it.
And then our artwork started to have crackpot and buzzkill put on it, so it just reiterated the whole thing.
We should. So now, please, let's move into that open source nature of the show. So two amazing things, which are a part of the model, a part of the openness and the freedom and the support through donations, is we don't own anything. We don't. Well, I mean, I guess technically, if you really looked at it, we do. But we don't.
A microphone.
Yeah, but the show is whatever it is, and we have people cutting this up, splicing it, putting it into all kinds of making.
Trance
ringtones, making trance music out of it. But we also have people who create things. So a lot of our jingles, by the way, we could use a lot more, and we love them, but we are very critical. We don't just use everything people send in. A lot of people send in stuff that we just feel is not good enough. We have artwork, and we have two main artists, Sir Randy Asher and Sir Paul T. And they, these guys have jobs. They do stuff. Who knows what they do? And they spend their time. They create artwork for us for almost every single show. Now there's noagendaart.com where people can drop art, and we've used the art from different artists. If anything, so after every show, people should know we have a discussion. So the first thing we say is, what do we think of the show? And there's been a couple times we said, well, that sucked. And we're pretty brutal with each other, although John never agrees with my criticism of him. If I say, well, you sucked on that, it's like, no, that was really good. And if you criticize me, you're usually right, and I just take it like a man.
Ha!
So we talk about that, and then we talk about...
essentially it's a post-mortem that most publications do.
Yeah, then we'll say, what do we call the show? So we think about what will get the best SEO results, what will people be searching. We want all those accidental hits. And then we have to choose from the artwork. And that is sometimes the hardest part because it's so good. We don't want to, have one guy put off over the other guy because they both sent in something great. That's a hard choice sometimes.
Yeah, it's amazing. We have, and there's other artists waiting in the wings that contribute on an occasional basis. We have some tremendous support from these guys. And then, Asher set up his own T-shirt shop and through, I don't know what mechanism, and, we help him out.
NoAgendaStuff.com.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And we have, all these guys, and we've encouraged it, and we don't have our name trademarked. Somebody came up with an email the other day that sent it. Well, I think I got a good promotional idea. Why don't you trademark in the morning, and then every time you hear anybody saying it on any show whatsoever, send them a cease and desist order, and then they'll promote you, and you'll get free publicity.
Although
and,
funny.
It's actually a funny idea, but it's not our model at all.
No, it sounds like work, and that's one thing we hate.
We don't want to do any work.
We actually don't want to do anything. We just want to do this show. We don't want to have any extra work. We don't want to do any, extra promotion stuff that involves leaving a computer.
Yeah, and I had these other guys, the guys at Mevios, come up to me. Oh, why don't you guys should at least sell some T-shirts. You should do. I mean, we tried that once, and it was like,
we can't get it together.
We stink.
Yeah, we suck at that. We're absolutely horrible at organization. People should also know the donations come into John's PayPal account. Actually, now we do have our own PayPal account.
No Agenda Show.
There's it's just like, we just, every month or 6 weeks or whatever, we just split it down the middle, and, there's no accounting, there's no spreadsheets. It's like,
well, you don't need, the accounting is done by the banks.
Right.
And,
right.
We don't.
But it's just like, whatever. I mean, real work, not necessary. In fact, Eric, who you brought in, actually does the hardest part, which we were starting to really suck at, which was the list of donors for each show. Because that was, we get people, people want to hear their name, and I think we pretty much have established anything over $50 gets mentioned unless someone puts in expressly that it's anonymous, and also that we have to track closely. And it's a lot of administrative work that we're no good at.
No, we suck.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
So Eric.
Yeah, we do.
So Eric sends us a spreadsheet with the producers and all the stuff, so we don't have to
do anything.
We just go down the list and say, well, here's the guys that gave us money. We do have to mention we had a number of people. I think we had about 87 to 95 people that joined the Deuce Club, which, by the way, closes at midnight, even though don't need to promote it.
By the time you hear this, it's probably closed.
By the time you hear this, it's going to be over.
Yeah.
But and we have to thank them all, and then many of them made some comments, but we're probably going to we're not going to start reading comments on today's show. I just want to acknowledge everybody. And
now, I have an older spreadsheet apparently.
Well, I have a couple of them here. I don't have I have to go to PayPal to get the latest and greatest.
Well, why don't I start with the Knights? Because it was nice. A couple of people became a Knight through their support for the Deuce Club, and a couple already were Knights and supported this show in addition. So why don't I start with that and go down the list?
All right. Well, you do that. I'll go open the PayPal thing.
Okay. Sir William Arcan, Sir Troy Walters, Sir Tom Derry, Sir Todd Simons, Sir Stephen, Sir Roman, Sir Rob Sealock, Sir Lawrence Royk, Sir Jordy Ramirez, Sir John Matthews, Sir John Kilbum, Sir Jeffrey Gerlach, Sir Daniel Stack, China Niels. I don't know if China Niels is a
Isn't
Sir
that Niels?
Niels. China Niels. I think he may be a Knight Noir on the way. Also, Sir Knight Noir Philip Evans. Then we have just running down the list of people. By the way, most of them, I think, from the United States.
I actually have I want to talk about the
breakdown?
Who supports the show later.
Then I'll Carlos Quimbe, Ryan Story, Brian Kaufman, Andrew Blackbum, Jeff Brown, Ruben Zhang, Tim Hoimer, Adam Burkpile. Adam Burkpile is a creator of the Pocket No Agenda app, so he's donating from his proceeds from that. Mike Scalora, Aaron Cole, Christopher Scalenda, Mark Bodiford, David Overbeck, Brian Mancuso, Randy Asher, that should be Sir Randy Asher, Roy Pledge, Matthew Walker, Robert Johnson, Chris Slavinsky, Fred Lust, Kevin Schneider, Simon Alicia, Lee Kenyon, Bruce Salkovitz, Luca Capadoro, Matthew Payton, Terry Heyman, Eric Thomason, David Rudolph Bakker.
Baker?
No, he's from Groningen, so it would be David Rudolph Bakker. He's from
but it would be because that's interesting because that's pronounced Baker in the United States.
Yeah, but we call that Bakker.
Okay, Bakker.
McTank, Jonas Astrom, Craig Lennox, Jay Brown, Joseph Ransom, Keith Bradshaw, Stefan Springer, Nina Kristen Hetland. Okay, first woman. This
but then it follows up with another one.
Claudia Gerber. So I will say this is a problem. That we have the balance of men to women is really skewed heavily male, and although our age ranges, I love the demographics of our audience.
Yeah, we got everybody.
It's really from 13 to 88.
That would be me.
Yeah, but women not so many. Sam Leng, Edward Hillman, David Evans, Tommy Horton, Matthew Greff, Michael Stajuhar, that's a tough one.
I don't know. Stajuhar. I don't know.
Samuel van der Plank.
Our buddy.
Niven Brooks, Cliff Wilson, Charles Anderson, Alan Bose, Max Lakritz, Josh Feldman, Jesse Simonin. James Callahan, Malcolm Blair, James Murray, Matthew Moss, Simon Reed, Adam Kolbe, or Kolb, I think Kolbe probably, Robert Tennant, James Spitzer, David Rosa, Eric Bodenstab, or Bodenstab, Hunter Hillegas, who sent us I know so many of these people, it feels kind of weird. Michael Snyder, Trevor Foucher, Barry Wilson, Tony Drews, Jake Kelly, Andrea Garnier,
our favorite name,
who is the sexiest woman in Canada, Dorothy Doring, so that's 4 women now, Daniel Rudolph, and Carrie Washimoto. That's what I have on my list.
Yeah, and then there's a few that came in late, and I'll mention them, which is, get the right page up here. Only like 5 monitors. The last of the group includes Joseph Stacy. This is one of your names. It's Wouterseljee.
Okay, slower.
Wouter.
Wouter.
Seljee.
Seljee. Seljee?
That's what it says.
Seljee? Seljee?
Selye, maybe?
No, it would be yay.
Okay.
Yay!
Jim Kaitola, Luke Fromhold, Chris Harrison, our friend Torsten Beck, coming back. A great name, Coolman Ray.
Cool Man Ray, baby.
Cool Man Ray.
I'm Cool Man Ray.
Lena Nobuhara, that's another woman, so that's 5. Carlos Quimbe, Ryan Story, and I think we already have Brian Kaufman. He came in last night. So, or do we have a Roman Visiting on there? On the list?
Did not. I don't think I read the name.
Okay, well then we have Brian Kaufman, Roman Visiting, Andrew Blackburn, and Jeff Brown.
So, John, would you like to basically do this full time and quit everything else?
Well, I'm never going to quit being a writer because that's a cross-promotional thing, and it's something I can just do casually, and it's a form of meditation. It's like quitting cooking.
Right,
so
or breathing.
Or breathing. So, yeah, but I don't really have anything else to do but this show.
Oh, bull crap.
Seriously. Well, you're right. I got to finish that book.
Yeah. I wish that. What do you think? Do we have to quadruple, quintuple our support?
To be honest about it, I think if we triple, if we keep doing the promotions like we do, and there's another one down the road. About once a month we do one. And by the way, we really thank everybody who joins the Deuce Club. We're going to put a page up with all your names. And if you didn't get mentioned, let us know, and we'll mention you on a real show. And
but I think we got it all.
Yeah, the point is that we have we have people that have been financing the show essentially, and a lot of them do an over the top version of financing by becoming executive producers of individual shows
or a night.
But this is the kind of thing, if we can triple our audience, we could probably sustain this, even though it will take a lot. We still have to do the promotions. We still have to come with the Deuce Club and these other ideas, and the founding producers. And we do these things, and they're all very valuable. And it makes people, or it helps people become more engaged with the show. They're now part of the show essentially. And I think if we tripled our numbers, which of course would then make it get critical mass, it should go even higher. But we do have a couple of issues with that. One is that you're right, if people can get put off by the beginning of the show. I've gotten mail on that. And we really have a shortage, even though we do have some good-looking women that follow the show because they're on Twitter, and you have their picture there, and they're pretty.
Yeah.
So it's not like the show is a barrier to women. It's not a show done for men and by men, but it is done by men, but it's not a show for men. But we do have an issue there, so we're losing about half the audience because of that. And I blame actually the mechanism of podcasting itself, and I could actually blame you.
Oh?
I think podcasting, when done right, where you actually have the automatic download that puts itself on your iPod or other device, and then you take that and you jump in your car to drive to work, and you plug the USB into your car, which has got a USB port now, and it plays our show automatically, is not being done enough. People
what
just
did I do wrong? Well, how was that my fault?
You invented the whole process.
Well, yeah, but so didn't I do everything right? What part did I do wrong? I don't get it. How was it my fault?
The part that you did wrong is that you never set up the marketing channel, so this became second nature to everybody. It is extremely difficult to use iTunes. Setting up the automatic mechanism, with some people like Jan Ailman was talking to me. We just got one of those iPads. He says he plugs it in, and the next thing you know, he's got the Cranky Geeks and No Agenda shows already downloaded on the iPad, whether he wanted it or not. And he's not even sure how that happened. But that kind of thing is just this vague bullshit of this podcast.
Hold on a second. You are not a user of an iPhone, but if you have an iPhone and you go to iTunes and you search for Adam Curry or Dvorak, you don't have to download anything. You can either click on it, it starts playing immediately right from the store, or you click download and it downloads that one episode to your phone. I mean, it's not like.
How about what's the mechanism for subscribing?
Well, the subscribing thing, it became an issue for a number of reasons, and so you can blame me all you want. But here's the problem. Here's where it went wrong. When this first started out, there was not a lot of bandwidth. In fact, I never invented this or never came up with it. Really, for the subscription model, I came up with it because I wanted you to be downloading something when remember when you had always on access? It wasn't like you had huge bandwidth, but you didn't have to dial in and your computer was just kind of sitting there. And I wanted this to be triggered at night or whenever, and you wouldn't know about it. And then your computer would say, oh, there's a new show, and you just click on it and it would play. You wouldn't have to play, click and wait for something to download before you could play it. That was the original idea. But then it got all messed up with RSS because you would change your feed and then all of a sudden you'd be downloading 100, previous episodes and hard drives would fill up. And I think actually for some reason, think they need some control over their computer and they don't just want stuff downloading in the background. So it's more of a cultural problem than anything. And this is why I think we got the stream going, and we have a lot of sustaining and founding producers for that. The future, of course, is going to be you get in your car, it flips on a 3 or 4G connection, and you'll be able to get stuff, and it will be either in real time on a stream or it'll be on demand, and it'll just start playing for you. I think that's where it's going to go. We have to get remove the idea from people. You don't think about what's happening when you get a movie on demand. You don't think about it. It's just like, I'm just clicking some buttons on the remote control. You don't think about all the packets streaming into your house and all this digital stuff that's happening in the background. It's just there. So, but someone's got to make that device and that interface, and they're coming, and they will happen. By the way, if anyone can help us, the number one thing was get us in all of the top menus. Put us there with the good stuff. And by the way, we got kind of screwed by Apple, because if you'll recall, Apple jumped on board with podcasting early, and I'm very happy they did. And then they started to promote all the NPR National Treasure shows. Like that was the only thing that was worth it, and podcasting independent stuff got pushed to the back. That's what happened there. So
yeah,
you still need, and this comes down to the device manufacturers, you still need them to promote what's on the interface that they have, that they control. I don't control that. I can only make the show. So, and that's a call out to producers. They need to be doing that. They need to be pushing us into the top selections and the favorites. And, have we ever been on the most, the featured selections of Apple's iTunes? No. And will we ever? Unlikely.
Well,
blame me on
anyway, so that's an issue.
Yeah, that's a tremendous issue. But so tripling the audience, I agree. And you know what? I would pretty much quit everything else I do.
We could double the audience if we had the same number of women that
we could have our own health care. This is the only thing we ever talk about. Until this show can actually help us afford health care and a cell phone.
Yeah, right.
We can't quit our day jobs. Not until
somebody, people always ask, well, what do you do with the donations? What do you do?
Yeah,
We buy equipment and we pay bills.
And it's not just bills related to this show. I mean, we got some bandwidth bills. Honestly, it's not huge. It's not huge.
We have to. This is what it's like asking Mr. Mailer, your new best-selling novel. What do you do with all the money you made from that book?
Exactly.
What difference does it make?
Yeah. A couple questions here from.
And by the way, I find it weird that people
even ask that question.
By the way, there's very few people that care, but they're annoying, the ones who do, because it's like, well, what do you do with your money?
Yeah. Couple of questions from Sir Troy Walters. I just want to go down the list, make sure we didn't miss anything. How did you come up with promotions like the Knighthoods? And although
the Knighthood thing, by the way, I will take credit for that, and I'll tell you why. Although I think we discussed it, and I think you're the one that probably pushed the idea.
Probably the name of a knighthood is probably my contribution.
Well, the knighthood thing, and I'll tell you, one day, and I've said this, I've done this with everybody who knows me will have heard this probably one time or another, and I know I ran it past Adam. Every time some American, and I think it's supposed to be illegal to receive a knighthood from the Queen, but they do.
Yeah.
Anyway, every time somebody say, what's the Queen, what's so special about England that they're granting knighthoods? Why don't we grant knighthoods?
Right, and I do.
Why can't we just grant it? Why can't anybody? Why can't Ford Motor Company grant knighthoods? What difference does it make?
Yeah, that's good. So ours are just as good as the Queen's.
I think so, and I think
agree.
we have a better group. That's for sure. The knights that have been on our list they're fantastic people, every one of them.
I have a plan, by the way. Of making a night iPhone app that will only be for nights, and it'll be limited for a number of reasons, but it'll only be for nights, and it'll be like our communication model, like a network, a night network.
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of fun, and we like a bat signal. I still want a bat signal. We're going to need it one of these days.
Well, we've got a lot of professional people in the knighthoods.
Yes.
We don't have a doctor. We have a dentist.
Do we have a lawyer?
Oh, that's a good question.
We need a lawyer. That's what you need, right? You need a doctor.
We need a lawyer. We need a lawyer. We need a butcher.
Yes. Hell yeah. A farmer. We need someone who can farm. What drives the new promotions? That's a good question. It depends on how you interpret it, of course. And I will say, all of the emails, promotion ideas, John does all of that. I do the production of the show. John does all of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm the marketing guy. Well, mainly because I've always admired certain forms of marketing that are very rarely executed by the general public, and by that I mean, or by general companies or little operations like ours, and by that I mean PBS and religion, churches. Because the model is so interesting that you get people that like you so much because you're doing something for them, and that's what PBS and churches are perceived as doing. One's giving you helping you spiritually, and the other one's educating you out of mainstream media, supposedly. And their model for getting money. And by the way, I have a background in public radio. I had a couple of shows, 2 different shows that were on public radio for over almost 10 years about computers. And I saw the mechanism, how it works and how much money they get and all the rest of it. And I always said, why does it just have to be those 2 groups? And then, of course, the publishing, the direct payment for a novel is a different kind of a thing. Why are these the only 2 groups that are using this model, A? And does anyone notice that they're actually pretty successful with this model?
Yeah, thank you.
There's some churches out there that have, not counting the mega churches, but some decent-sized churches with maybe 2,000 to 3,000 parishioners. And they got the guy with a Cadillac and a big house, and they got plenty of money. And there's only like 2,000 people that are supporting the entire parish. And it's like, does anybody notice that this looks like, of course, the tax-free thing doesn't hurt the guy. But it's like, obviously, it's a model that works, and people don't mind the model. I mean, we're not getting knighthood donations because people think this is a dumb idea. Wow. So anyway, so I do the promotions. I come up with them, every once in a while. One comes forward and say, well, here's an idea. This people would like. So, it's kind of like selling the dream kind of thing. I'm not sure. And I used to be in direct marketing.
Well, I say that, when people ask me about this, I say, look, we have a church and our religion is the truth, or as close as we can get to it.
There's that element. I think, we seem to offend a few people if we go off the deep end with the church angle. But the fact of the matter is we do the thing on Sunday morning, and I'm sure a lot of people don't go to church and listen to us instead, or football. Mm-hmm. It'd be interesting to see since we're in full tilt here trying to maximize our incomes, it'll be interesting to see what the drop-off is on listenership on the live stream during the football season.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, well, and by the way, we do look at that kind of stuff.
We look at all the numbers. We keep track of stuff. Eric likes to dream up weird reports, and we look at them, and we know where we're headed, and we're doing fine. We're not doing well enough that we can quit and do this full time, and that's, which is okay. Being in a struggling situation is not a bad thing, and the show, I think, is sound, if I can say.
Is it harder to be excited for the next show if donations are down on the previous show?
It is for Adam.
That's not true. It's not like I'm less excited.
You said so once.
No, then you misinterpreted what I said. What I meant was, first of all, it bums me out because I take that as a direct result of the program, of the product that we produced. It bums me out. Yeah, it bums me out. Does it make me less excited? No, it motivates me. It gets me motivated to do a better show. And we deconstructed. And John, by the way, you got to know this. He's like the horrible uncle you never wanted. He'll send you notes like, well, that thing you did that made donations drop through the floor. That's horrible. And I know, and it took me like 2 months to figure out that this is bullshit, that he's just writing that just to piss me off.
No, I was writing it for a good reason because I believed it to be true.
It's the way you write it. It's like,
it's the way email is. You
sorry,
can't be,
Grandpa. Yeah, sorry. Don't be such a dick.
I suppose I should put a bunch of smiley faces and that would make you happy.
Yeah, good. This is what I love about you. What is the single most enjoyable element of the show for each of you?
That's a great question, and I don't like saying the term "a great question," but it's a thoughtful question. It makes you think. What do we like to? I think when the show ends.
I think
hours.
Well, first of all, there is no element in the show. I think that's we have no fixed elements.
That's true.
The only thing that's fixed is donations.
And we do that about an hour in.
45 minutes to an hour, yeah. So
and we've talked about that because we notice the donations fall off if we push the thing off to near the end, because a lot of people, to be honest about, do not listen to the entire show.
Yeah, I agree. I get a lot of emails from people. I'm like, God, we just did that 2 weeks ago. Like, how can you send me this email? And yeah, I agree. A lot of people don't get through the whole show, which, by the way, is okay. It's okay. And for people who listen, who like, oh, that was, this is what I love. There's fast forward. You can fast forward through something you think is boring.
I guarantee you'll be backing up.
I think so too. For me, wow, this is going to sound kind of weird. Most enjoyable, personally enjoyable. I like it when I have either an article or a clip, and I get praise from you.
Yeah, I'll do that because I actually keep a running score, but it's just for me. But I know you're paying attention to it, and I'll score a goal for you when you hit one that is like completely catches me flat-footed. I got nothing on it. Maybe my take is even wrong because your take is better, and it's interesting. And so I give you a kudo right on the spot. And it's sincere, by the way. And I usually only do it when I know I can't top you. You can actually come up with something that's better than where you got the kudo, something really stunning. But I know I've got a topper.
Yeah.
And so I won't give you the kudo then.
So that's kind of interesting. Do we have a weird father-son relationship?
No, it's not. No, it's a teammate relationship where you're trying to compete for that position of dominance.
Okay, yeah,
I think it's a team. It's a team orientation where the two guys are working to win, but you want to be the guy that did the best.
But it's okay if you score the goal.
Yeah, you scored the goal. Okay, you scored the goal. Next time I'll score the goal, you prick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good analysis. So
the father and son thing doesn't work that way because father and son would be more patronizing. I'm not patronizing. I'm straightforward about it.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I'll give you that.
I know how much you'd like that to be the case, but
no.
Not going to happen.
I don't think so.
So I got a little thing here, a little aside.
Mm-hmm.
I had Eric run the numbers on which country listens to us and where we get most of our support from.
That is a question. So,
and here's the answer. Okay, now I'm gonna do it because I have the numbers and you don't. So this is my rare opportunity to make you do what we do on the show quite a bit, which is make the other person guess, knowing full well that they'll never guess it correctly, and it's just kind of a stalling tactic. But guess who's number one?
Now, is this in total amount of donations?
This will be both donors and the amount, but it's going to go by the total amount. But but it turns out the numbers match pretty well with the. It's 1-to-1 pretty much with the donors versus and totals.
I will say that the Netherlands is very high on the list.
Who's number one? Oh, please.
Well, number one's got to be America.
Of course, by a factor of 9.
Yeah.
All right. So now it gets interesting. Number 2. And before you answer, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to get it.
Australia?
Oh, geez, you got it.
Yes, he shoots, he scores.
Oh,
no,
man.
I know. I knew Australia had to be really high. And
I shouldn't have given you the tease.
No, I knew it. I knew this because, I mean, we've had to, I track it kind of in my head. I'm like, man, I get stories. The Aussies are, they're really into us. But don't mess with them, man. These guys will mess you up. And they don't like what's going on, and I can almost guess, by which country is the most suppressed. So of course America wins, and then Australia, and I think the Netherlands has got to be 3rd or 4th on the list.
No, actually, the Netherlands actually comes in 6th.
Oh, okay.
It goes like this: United States, Australia, Canada.
Canada, right? Yeah, I forgot.
United Kingdom and Netherlands.
UK as well, of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
I actually thought the Netherlands would come in a little higher.
Yeah, so did I.
But no. And we
Belgium?
have a couple
Belgium?
we have the guys. The reason is because the Netherlands, the guys who do contribute to the show
are from Belgium,
are very they're aggressive,
right?
Pelsmakers. Oh, he's in Belgium.
He's in Belgium, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Belgium comes in. Then it comes Germany, Belgium, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Switzerland, Mexico, and then we have an anomaly with Japan, which has very few people listening, but they give a lot of money, and so, same with Hong Kong. That's where all the money is. Then we got Spain, Italy, France, Denmark is actually higher, but they don't give any money. They're
cheap.
Cheap.
The damn Danes.
The Danish are obviously cheap, and then Poland, which is like that doesn't count. They don't even the non-English speaking countries. It doesn't bother me.
So this is very interesting for the amount of. That's really interesting for the amount of time we spend on or have spent on stories about Poland. They're way down on the list.
Oh, they're way down.
The amount of time we spend on the UK and Australia. That's about right.
Yeah,
I would say, and Canada. We probably should do more on Canada.
Yeah, no, the Canadians are starting to complain about it.
And they're right.
It's easy enough to do. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat. This hour has 22 minutes or whatever the name of the show is that nails them constantly. We got some support in Singapore. I mean, almost every country's Estonia, Dominican Republic, Malaysia, Qatar, Israel, one person.
Yay.
Iran, which is, that actually is the one that really surprises me the most. That we'd have one listener in Israel. I mean, you may be blocked there for all I know.
Could be. Yeah, could be.
And Portugal, we haven't got much. You'd think I'd have more from Brazil since I'm a writer there and fairly well known, but it's in translation.
Yeah, they may be writing all kinds of crap. You don't know what they're translating it to.
No, I know what they're translating. I've had a lot of people. I know a lot of Brazilians, and one guy said to me once, and I know the translator. He's a great guy. I've sat down with him and done a PowerPoint like in 10 minutes. The guy's fantastic.
Let me. What was the? Oh, here's one that I can't answer. What are the current subscriber numbers? So first of all, subscriber numbers. The word subscriber is a misnomer because we really don't know how many people listen to this show by downloading. We absolutely just don't know. John, how often, and by the way, I don't think anyone knows in podcasting what their actual real numbers are. There is so much smoke about numbers.
You have to guess. And
what would you guess?
Well, based on normal direct marketing returns and the kind of money we get, it's hard to say. I mean, it could be anywhere from 50,000 to 400,000.
Yeah, that's about the same range I'm in. And it's impossible to tell from the downloads and, the proxies. And, of course, I'm sure there's a small percentage that is maybe not downloading at all, listening only to the stream. There's people who get it on BitTorrent. Because
we only have, in terms of pure subscribers that are paying the $5, we only have about 1,500 of those people. We have not pushed
there you go.
Everybody.
That's a good number. That's a really
very
good number.
hard to do the $5 thing. Some people have done the 30. Some people say, I'm not going to do it till you make it 10, and I haven't put that up. So, I mean, that's, and then every time they change their credit card or some number, they get bounced by PayPal, so they don't have the subscription anymore. I get letters saying, well, I'm sorry, but I didn't realize I haven't had a subscription for 6 months because PayPal bounced it, and I got to resubscribe. Sorry, they apologize. And some people get bounced for no good reason. It's, we're not that stable, that we need more subscribers for sure. We'll be pushing that probably on the show more.
Okay, I have two more things. One more. One is, so I actually would like to know how you prep for the show. I think I already explained what I do.
I don't generally, what I do is I typically take the articles and things that I found and I print them out and pile them up as they come, because I get most of my stuff online, and then I'm always making clips because I have an H2 recorder by my side at all times, and I'm constantly jumping up. Even with the full family could be watching a movie or something, I'm jumping up and stopping the movie, backing it up, and then getting a clip, and then so I collect I spend most of my time collecting clips and articles. And I don't organize them very well. Because of the nature of the show, I'm always assuming that it's going to go anywhere because you never know, who's going to bring up a topic that gets interesting in the conversation itself. So I'm probably underprepared in terms of pure preparation, not in terms of the work that goes into getting the clips and all that and reading a lot, but in terms of like thinking about what I'm going to do. I do occasionally will take a bunch of notes. Early, if you watched or listened to the show maybe a year ago, I would have these notes. I used to ridicule myself for taking terrible notes. I can't read, and that was a little more preparation. But I found that it really that didn't do anything to improve the show, and it also kind of puts. If I prepare too much, I'll try to dominate the show. And which kind of ruins the pace and flow.
And for me, the only I do collect everything because I find if you look at the show notes versus what we talk about in the show, I mean the show notes are often 4 times as much information, and I think that is a valuable part of the show for people to be able to go and research stuff and look at things, and there is a reasonable segment of the audience that really uses that and appreciates it and looks at it. Some of the iPhone apps give you good access to it and searchability. But I'm typically always hoping that I can find, from a radio production perspective, here it is. I'm hoping that there's 1 or 2 zingers that I have. Either it's a clip or it's a story or it's something, and I'll work on that. And I cannot go to bed on a Wednesday night or a Saturday night without knowing I have something. And I sometimes will try out my rap on Mickey. I'll say, how does this sound? And usually I get shot down.
Yeah, I refuse to do that. I think that's overdoing it.
Yeah, I get shot down.
Good. So here's a question that somebody has for you. What happened to the Global Blank Fund? Adam was supposed to have a big report on it.
The what?
Remember that fund you were talking about, that money that was hidden during the Reagan administration or something?
Oh, it was a French name.
Yeah, this is brought from Brian Monday. Okay, well, now there's your answer, Brian.
Yeah, no, well, I hit so many dead ends, and I just don't have the time to spend my life.
Yeah, and it's not going to bring anything to the party.
You know what it is? There's I guess the answer is no one has done enough reporting, that at least that I could find, that makes it believable or credible enough. And the only way to really get into it is I'd have to do the investigative work myself, and that's obviously not going to happen.
Okay, Hugs a Lot asks, what's the actual cost of producing the show? Most podcasts have zero budgets and still produce shows. DSC is done free.
No, it's not. That's not true. DSC is a part of what the founding and sustaining producers of the No Agenda stream donated their money for, and we'll have to do another drive. What is the actual cost? I mean, what does it cost you to go to work? There's actual cost. This is actual time. There's preparation.
Time is money.
Value for value. That's the way it works. Time is definitely money. So is there actual, would you like me to charge by the hour, the amount of time it took me to set up the studio? That's just one little thing. No, you don't.
Not sure actually, the question to me is vague. I don't know what it means. DZ Pix asks, what iPhone, iPad app does Adam use for the Jingles Sound Bank?
I use a program called SoundBite, BYTE, one word, SoundBite, on the Mac. It is made by Black Cat Software, and I've just kind of been. They essentially replicated a cart machine. They look like carts. You can color them like you would color, and a cart is a cartridge. That's the old school way of putting jingles into a jingle machine, and it's pretty customizable. And what's nice about it is they released an iPhone app, which I can run on the iPad. Although it kind of sucks because it runs in iPhone mode, and you kind of enlarge it, and it doesn't work very well. In fact, today I didn't use it at all, but normally I do. And it brings up the screen of your cart deck the way it looks on the computer screen. And the only if I had it, I would prefer to have an extra monitor instead of having the iPad run that, because I use 2 monitors because I have a lot of stuff that I have to monitor, and really what I need to be able to connect a third screen to my laptop. I don't think that's an easy thing to do, though.
Okay. Here's an interesting question. I should be able to answer, but I'm going to have you do it if you can. I bought a Nokia E71 because you said you like it. How do I get the stream to work on it? Can we do that?
There is actually in the Nokia OV store, which is their version of the App Store, there is it's just released. If you go there and it's like create your own Nokia app. I think they're actually calling them apps. You can enter the RSS feed for No Agenda, and it will create an app for your phone. And then you can put that on your phone. It does not do the streaming bit, but you can get streaming programs all over the place for the Nokia. But I think it's more interesting just to be able to make your own app for the episodes. So that's how you do that. And BlackBerry, by the way, also is coming out. They called me like, yeah, we're going to do podcasting on the BlackBerry. Can you log in and put in your shows for your company? And I put in No Agenda, Daily Source Code, Tech 5 Top 5, Cranky Geeks, and then I got bored. So apparently there's some podcasting thing on BlackBerry. So, yeah. Any more from the chat room?
This is actually Twitter? From Twitter. Let me see if there's one more here. There was one.
Hold on 1 second. Just got to see who's texting me. Hold on.
Guy says, the show's gone from a show with no jingles and no talent to a glut of both. I thought that was kind of unique.
It's gone to a what?
We have a glut of talent, apparently, on the show. It's just the same two guys. Somebody else asks, the show's changed a lot since its inception. It's the same guy, actually, Opera Now. Do you prefer the new format? And, obviously we do, or we wouldn't be doing it.
And the audience does, more importantly.
The audience does, too. I mean, the show is, has it's.
But, I've been in broadcasting long enough. You always have people who say, oh, it was much better then. Oh, it was better then. Oh, no,
I have the same thing as a writer. You get this. I have people that still say, when you were writing that column for InfoWorld, it was much better.
Yeah.
And I looked at those. I could go back and look at that old crap, and it wasn't. Generally speaking, things improve.
Yeah, I guess it's just the nature of the beast.
Well, that's the nostalgia, or people. At some point, people either like you more in time because they hear you more, they read you more, or they like you less in time, and then they associate that with maybe you were doing something different before. Generally speaking, you weren't.
All right, so wrapping this up, what's the future?
Well, we got another 200 shows to do.
At least. No, we have at least until episode 333.
Well, before we do another promotion like the Deuce Club. Well, we got to thank all the Deuce Club members profusely, and we'll do that over time and on the webpage. And I think, we're not showing any indication of slower growth. People still like the show. I think the great thing, and we've talked about this off the air a lot, There's so much material for us.
Yeah, I think the show there's only growth because it just comes automatically. The
media is getting worse.
Yep.
They're laying everybody off. The Obama administration is getting worse. They're lying to the public just straight out. There's these crazy things that Hill and Knowlton are doing. I mean, now that I find that they're behind all the global warming stuff, we're doomed. That's going to go through because you can't stop Hill and Knowlton. I don't know.
Are you worried that the show will ever get taken off the air?
Not seriously, but it could be. It could be taken off the air. I don't think.
This, by the way, is a huge benefit of our model because if you have advertisers, that's the attack mechanism. That's where you're weakest. When the minute someone doesn't like what you say, look at Imus, and that's just one example. The minute you go somewhere that they don't like you, then the audience. For us, it's easy. The audience like what we do, we get no money. It's like, okay, we can turn that around in one episode. We can go, oh, okay, we went off the track there. We can get it back on. But when your advertisers pull out, then the network goes nuts, and then you're out of a job. You're dead. You're gone. You're history. You're out.
And you lost. In other words, you don't have control from the get-go.
Yep.
And that's another reason I think the direct support is the way to go. It's open source. We don't care. One of the things that's great about it, I always say, well, if somebody bootlegs the show, puts it on their own website, takes credit for it, say they produce it, I don't care. The fact is our messages are embedded in the show, and it goes with us. We don't need to prove numbers. We don't say, our numbers from Arbitron came in and we got a 3-3, and this is here. Look, Mr. Advertiser, give us some more money. We have a better CPM. We have a certain demo to have to prove our demo, and we have to prove the CPM and this and that and the other thing. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Remember those days when you'd wait for the Arbitrons to come out and the whole station was like tiptoeing around and, well, we know the trends are down, so how bad will it be? Oh, man.
Yeah, we don't deal with any of that. We don't want to. It's ridiculous. And we're completely independent. We don't have anybody telling us what to do. We don't have advertisers telling us what to do, which is the real danger here. And without exception, the only way we would be taken off the air is if the government or somebody sued us, or the government decided to pull the plug, or who knows? I mean, but that's not going to happen. We're below the radar. We're crackpots. We believe we're conspiracy theory people. Oh, no, conspiracy.
Yes.
And maybe we'll get taxed for being conspiracy theory guys.
Yeah, that's the worst thing that could happen. Well, I can live with that.
It seems to me that Alex Jones will get taken out before we do, and that would be a nice warning shot. He's the canary in the cage, as far as I'm concerned, even though I don't think he does half the work we do.
I think he has good guests, but that's a different format.
Well, no, we can't. That's another thing. That's the one question we should, at least before we finish. We cannot do 2 hours.
Yeah, we've done it again.
So before we finish, the people say, well, can I be a guest on your show? How come we don't do this? How come we don't do that? We may do some separate interview shows separately that will be on the stream. That will be part of some other initiative. This show is what it is. It's two guys talking to each other about the current events, just like you do in the coffee shop with your buddies. There's no guest. When you're in the coffee shop, you don't say, man, coming in to have a guest.
Here's a guest.
Will be, so-and-so who just finished a book. So what was your book about? This is not the Larry King show.
Right. Well, anyway, so yeah, we were going to do an hour. We're moving up now on, what are we at? I have the exact recording here. We are at 1:45. Good job. Thank you again to everyone who supports No Agenda, who supported this show, the Deuce Club. Thanks to everyone who's out there making websites and crazy ideas and promoting us. It is also your show, so I could just say thank you, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really, it's the highlight of my week, and it happens twice a week.
And we'll try to do these special third shows every so often. And
yeah, what are we going to talk about?
Well, I think we talked out. The funny thing is, I'll bet you we could do another 2 hours.
I was just about to say, not a problem. And our spouses wonder why we don't talk to them at night. I've got nothing to say to you. That's the problem right there. I'm all talked out, baby.
You only have so many words in them.
Exactly. All right, so on Thursday, we'll be back. Hope you all enjoyed this special 200.5 episode of No Agenda, the backstage look. I think we've answered just about everything. And if not, then, yeah, we'll have topics for another one of these shows.
Yeah.
And I am glad we're winding up right on time so I can watch Twit. I love Twit. I love watching it.
Yeah, you go do that.
Yeah. I wish Leo would have me on.
Well, that's not going to happen.
No, I know. It's upsetting to me.
So, okay. Well, we'll Thursday we got more stuff coming up. Obviously, there's going to be the same crap coming out of Washington and the crazy news stories, and we're going to see what this blowout, this oil thing. We'll be talking about that for the next month or two.
And trains.
And trains, yeah, the trains thing.
Coming to you from Gitmo Nation West from the Hilltop Watchtower Crackpot Command Center in the People's Republic of Southern California. In the morning, I'm Adam Curry.
And from Northern Silicon Valley, I'm John C. Dvorak.
See you again on Thursday, early morning service right here on No Agenda.